Imagine waking up right now, looking around the room, and having absolutely no idea how you got there, why you're there, or what you were literally just doing. Your entire context is completely wiped clean. That terrifying vulnerability is exactly where we begin today. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to break down Christopher Nolan's brilliant year 2000 neo-noir psychological thriller, Memento. And we're really going to explore how a film about a broken mind so masterfully manages to manipulate our own. Because right at the heart of the main character Leonard Shelby's journey, there's this profound philosophical question. He's on this desperate mission to solve a life-shattering crime, right? But he's doing it with a mind that constantly betrays him. Think about it. If you can't remember what you did yesterday, or heck, even 10 minutes ago, how do you know who you are? How do you know if you're actually a good person? Leonard's pursuit of justice forces us to ask if identity can even exist without a stable memory, or if it just kind of becomes a story we tell ourselves over and over. Okay, let's dive into this. Since we're dealing with fractured memory and shifting realities today, we better leave ourselves a structured roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with A, a mind without context. Examine structure as experience, and analyze memory as evidence. Then, we'll issue a strict spoiler warning before crossing into the manufactured reveal, and finally, the moral loop. Section 1, a mind without context, the condition of Leonard Shelby. So Leonard suffers from a condition where he just cannot form new long-term memories. After a very short window, poof, his recent events simply fade to black. And because his context is constantly resetting, he has to navigate his entire life and his murder investigation using this incredibly rigid system of external tools. He relies entirely on handwriting notes to himself, snapping Polaroid photos, and most extremely of all, literally tattooing his own body. And this brilliantly illustrates the tension right at the core of his system. On one hand, you have his permanent tattoos. Leonard treats these as absolute, unchangeable facts, things he never ever has to question. But on the other hand, he uses contextless Polaroids. These are just visual snapshots completely missing their underlying story, you know? They offer evidence, sure, but without a narrative. So he's constantly trying to balance the absolute permanence of ink on his skin with the extreme inaccuracy of a photo taken entirely out of context. Moving on to Section 2, structure as experience, a cinematic mirror. Now, the most famous feature of Memento is obviously its timeline, but it's absolutely crucial to understand that this isn't just some clever cinematic gimmick. Nolan is actually using the structure of the film to force us into Leonard's exact state of vulnerability. The narrative design itself is the experience. See, the film utilizes two distinct timelines. We've got one thread of the story moving forward in time, which provides context and builds contrast. But the main thread, that one moves backward. Each scene begins exactly where the previous scene ended. And by doing this, the film literally forces us, the audience, to arrive at moments without seeing what caused them. We experience the exact same disorientation that Leonard does. We are just dropped into the middle of a conflict with no idea how it started. Which leads us to a really fascinating concept, weaponized missing context. Memento is a mystery, for sure, but it doesn't just passively hide information from us. It actively weaponizes what is missing. Because we're dropped into these scenes totally blind, exactly like Leonard, we're pushed into a psychological corner. We're forced to quickly build explanations, latch onto patterns, and accept facts that feel stable, even when they are dangerously incomplete or heavily biased. Section 3, memory as evidence, the vulnerability of objectivity. So the crucial point is that Leonard's system of photos and tattoos feels incredibly objective to him. It feels like pure, unadulterated fact-gathering. But operating a supposedly objective system in a highly subjective, dangerous world, that creates a massive blind spot. Because remember, this is the neo-noir world. Everyone possesses hidden incentives, and a man who can't retain context becomes an incredibly easy target. Take Natalie, for example. She actively exploits Leonard's short-term trust for her own personal gain, fully knowing he's just going to forget her betrayals. Then there's Teddy, who understands Leonard's external memory system perfectly and completely leverages it to manipulate Leonard into taking out his own enemies. It shows us, plain as day, exactly who holds the power when one person cannot retain the context of their own life. Section 4. The spoiler warning, crossing the point of no return. Consider this your official neon-flashing warning, folks. From here forward, we are going to dissect the final reveal of the film, its ending meaning, and its moral implications. We're shifting from a structural mystery analysis into a full-blown psychological autopsy of Leonard Shelby. If you haven't seen the film, pause this explainer right now. Seriously, go watch it. Section 5, the manufactured reveal, agency inside the condition. Let's slow down for a second here, because the plot's final puzzle piece reveals a deeply unsettling dark truth. Leonard's seemingly objective system isn't just vulnerable to outside manipulation. Actually, scratch that, it's worse. The system is actively authored by Leonard's own powerful emotional need. The film clinically lays out the horrifying steps of Leonard's self-manipulation loop. It's like a machine. Step 1, he selects a target. Step 2, he carefully inscribes facts, writing notes or taking photos that justify going after this target. Step 3, he forgets the setup, reads his own notes, and then acts on pure conviction, as if the conclusion was entirely inevitable. He is literally manufacturing his own absolute certainty. Ultimately, he chooses what becomes permanent and what is forgotten. The ending proves that Leonard actually has agency inside his condition. He can make choices about what enters his little fact system. And when faced with a choice, he prefers a useful, violent story over a profoundly painful truth. He deliberately sets himself up to be the hero of his own ongoing narrative. Section 6, the moral loop, the viewer's complicity. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the ending completely transforms the entire meaning of the film on a rewatch. It's no longer just a mechanical puzzle to be solved. It becomes this deeply ethical exploration of confirmation bias. Consider the heavy thematic weight of this idea. Revenge becomes not closure, but a repeatable identity. On a thematic level, the film is arguing that revenge functions as a story that never actually needs to end. Think about it. If Leonard were to truly solve the crime and finish his mission, he would just be left facing his profound grief with absolutely no purpose. So, the mission simply restarts. But, the film doesn't let us off the hook either. We experienced certainty before we saw the evidence. By watching cause and effect in reverse, Nolan made us active participants in this whole mechanism. We judged characters, we trusted Leonard's handwritten notes, and we craved a coherent story so badly that we blindly accepted his manufactured reality as the gospel truth. Which kind of makes us entirely complicit in his moral loop, right? Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to take away. Does a story feel true just because it feels coherent? Memento proves that humans, whether we have a memory condition or not, often prefer a narrative that keeps us moving over a truth that stops us dead in our tracks. It really challenges us to look at our own confirmation biases, the media we consume, and our own moral certainty. So next time you feel absolutely certain of a fact, ask yourself, are you looking at the whole picture or just a Polaroid?